Hey Brett, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Fantastic, thanks.
Yeah, I like your background.
Thanks. The Montana State website has a bunch of backgrounds you can download. Yeah. Look at that. Ashley's so busy, she's logged in twice on this meeting. Is the snow and ice melting off the roads over in the cemetery?
Oh yeah, very much so. They're all clear and bare. Actually, quite a bit of grass showing now.
Nice.
Hello, everyone. This is Paul.
Well,
Hey Paul, how's it going?
Good, thanks.
And you said you have to drop off before 12:30 today?
Yeah, a few minutes before 12:30. I gotta
Yeah, no
jump
problem.
into another meeting.
What? You have something else going on in your life?
Oh my gosh.
I think we're okay to get started.
Oh, Kim, are you on? Just saw your. Yay, thanks for joining us. And I know Pat said he was not able to make the meeting today, correct?
Right.
Okay.
And I have a plumber here at my house, and so I may have to step away occasionally.
No problem. And then Paul has to step out of the meeting a little early today as well. So let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. If you're joining us by phone, go ahead and press *9 to raise your hand to be recognized for public comment, and *6 to mute and unmute. This meeting is being broadcast as well live on YouTube, and meeting minutes will be recorded on the city's website. Katie, did I miss anything on that intro?
Nope, I think you're good.
Oh, you're way ahead of me. Good job. Let's go ahead and do a roll call, which is lengthy. Pat was excused from today's meeting. Paul is on the line. Kim is on the line. Mary Lou, are you by any chance here as well? Okay, and I am Neil Carson. Let's see, I think our first thing on the agenda is to approve minutes from our last two meetings held on the 7th and 18th of last month. We had that extra meeting that was to vote on the strategic plan, or which is why we have the two meeting minutes there. Has everyone had a chance to read through those? And if so, can we get a motion to approve the minutes?
So I'll make February 4th, the 2021 meeting minutes. Make a couple of comments on that. Under 7.1, capital MS for Seaburger, need a spelling correction. And then on page 2, under 8.1 strategic plan, it says LF Sloan, and that is actually not our consultant. It's L.F. Sloan, SLAONE Consulting Group, if that could make a correction as well. With those two corrections, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I second it.
I guess all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. We can let the record show that was unanimously accepted.
On the February 18th, 2021 meeting minutes, I have a couple of questions there. We had several guests that attended that aren't showing up on our meeting minutes. Can we get those added from now on, so that we have a complete list of everybody who attended the meeting? And that's a question to staff.
On the 18th, what guests are you referring to?
Jeremy Keene was there, Brian was there, there was staff from the cemetery who were there, Susan attended, and they're not listed as attendees.
Okay.
And anybody else, you know, if there is public, they should, in my opinion, they should always show up on the, it should be a complete list of everybody who was at the meeting. So that was one. The other one was under 4.1. It says Neil Carlson, Chair, asked for the board to vote on approving the cemetery strategic plan, which is true. And I made a motion, but the motion was based on the idea that it was with the modifications that were noted by Public Works Director and that Sloan had addressed.
Okay, we'll get those changes to that.
Okay. With that in mind, I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes with the corrections noted.
I second it.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Paul, as always, thank you for your attention to detail on such things. Moving right along, do we have any public comment on items not listed on the agenda? Katie, do we have any public attendees? Okay, thanks. We'll just keep moving on then. Let me know though if you see someone pop in, if you don't mind though. Thanks.
Okay.
Paul, because I know you have to leave a little early, do you want to adjust the agenda today so that we can talk about the cemetery director position first before the financials?
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
Does anyone have any opposition to that?
No.
Cool. So Katie, if you don't mind, would you mind, I think you're listed as bringing this to the discussion today.
That's right. So I'm just opening this up for discussion. I'm not asking for a vote on this, but I would like to get the board's opinion on those changes. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And I'm sorry, you might have to, I'm sick, so Talking a little bit weird. What we've been doing lately is just taking, there's a lot of changes going on with public works, so we just decided to that it's time to kind of take a look at the cemetery director position, see if we need to change it at all, update, just to make it more current, because I think the last time we've hired a cemetery director was like 6 or 7 years ago. So now was the kind of the time to reevaluate this. So Brian, Brett, myself, we looked at this job description and see if there was any changes that could be made. As far as the tasks of this person, we felt like this is all very much still needed in the cemetery. Keeping in line with how Public Works is structured in their organizational chart, we did feel like changing it from director to superintendent better fits with the flow of the organizational chart. This does not change any of the tasks that the director was doing. We just wanted to fall more in line with what we currently have within Public Works. So that's the only thing we're really proposing. Obviously, not under the Chief Administrative Officer. It would be under the Public Works Director. We felt it was best to take out this last sentence of the third paragraph under tasks, because that does feel like it should be the Public Works Director's responsibility, but that the superintendent can participate upon request. And then I did change up the qualification so that it is following in line with the other superintendents of public. So we did some comparisons between the other superintendents' job descriptions and the cemetery director as it stands right now. Down this side, we have everything that is a general item for this position, and it is almost identical to each other. So these are water, wastewater, streets, comm shop versus cemetery, and they are almost identical with what they are supposed to be doing for the cemetery. So with those being so similar, we really felt like a superintendent title change would be warranted. And we did look at Jeremy's job description. And I know there's only 5 things, so I apologize, Jeremy, that you don't do just 5 things for us. These are kind of the general things that he's doing, and that they are just a little bit higher than what we have the cemetery director doing, which fits with everything. Not only that, this is a screenshot from the current compensation schedule for any non-union employees. Currently, we have the cemetery director here listed under grade 18. That is in the same grade level as all of the public works superintendents. So it very much fits together. Of course, I also included, in case you all probably have not seen, our current org chart. So I just really wanted to open this up for discussion and hear your thoughts. I mean, moving forward, we definitely need to be looking at an overarching kind of structure of the cemetery personnel, how we can shape things to help move people up and advance and give them opportunities. So this is just kind of a kickoff, but we'll let it open up for any questions you may have.
Can I first just say, Katie, thank you for putting all of this together. Especially the gap analysis you did on the position responsibilities and the comp schedule. That's really super helpful for us to look at. Thanks for doing that.
Yep, Ashley was the one who did that. So.
Oh, well, Ashley then gets all the credit.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would second that too, Katie and Ashley. That was really helpful.
So when I've read through this a couple of the job description a couple of times now, and I mean, I have a few little minor tweaks that I might recommend, but it seems like it's a overall well-written job description that seems to be in keeping with the rest of job descriptions I've seen from the city. My question is probably to Jeremy, to Brian, to Brett. Is this in keeping with what you need at the cemetery to ensure its daily operations are successful and functional?
Yes, I believe so.
So I can speak first to that a little bit. So when we had our consultant here, I asked this question to Larry Sloan, what other cemeteries do with that position. And his answer was interesting because he said, with private cemeteries, you need to have a director. But with a publicly run cemetery that is part of a department that already has a director or directors, you often don't see that director position. It is more of a superintendent position. He said you need somebody who is highly capable of running the day-to-day maintenance operations and customer service at the office, but you don't necessarily need a director in title. So that's part of the shift here. The other reason that we're recommending this is that if you look at the way Public Works is structured and the way that, in particular, Brian works in streets with his position as deputy director, and then he has a number of very capable superintendents. It's a good structure that has served us really well. And Brian, you could speak a little bit more to how that works, but those superintendents are still responsible for their own budget. They're responsible for a lot of decisions. But they report to Brian, and Brian and I act as in the director roles of really providing that larger strategic guidance and direction. So that's my take on it.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks for taking your time to join us today, by the way. Kim or Paul, have you had a chance to look at this at all yet, or have any thoughts on excuse me, on Katie's discussion thus far?
I got a chance to read through it, and I think it's great. I mean, basically what Jeremy just said, it accomplishes the tasks that is needed for the city cemetery. And the changes that they made, that's, it's logical.
I would echo that with a couple of caveats. When I think back on the roles since I've been part of the board, what the cemetery director, now superintendent, did, they managed a lot of volunteers during different periods of the cemetery, not only on Flag Day or Memorial Day, but on Stories and Stones, and kind of that scope seemed to be lacking anywhere in this document in terms of organizing, or maybe it's not even organizing. I couldn't tell you what Ron did, but I know that there were volunteers out there, and he was a part of that and made certain things happen out there that otherwise wouldn't have happened. And I just don't see that reflected in this document. The other one I would say is there's a couple of things that I found odd on page 2. It's a third item down under knowledge of. One of the issues, it says knowledge of
et cetera, grading, landscaping, and building restrooms. And it might be just a misread on the text there, but are we talking about constructing restrooms? Is that something to say that the applicant just needs to be able to, physically build a restroom? I wasn't sure. I doubt it. I think there's probably some language there. I would imagine that if there was a construction project on the site, it would involve a contractor with a license and et cetera. But so just a question there.
Yep, that's definitely not normal to see on here. I'm glad you pointed that out.
That may have been a leftover from an old project where the cemetery may have wanted to build a new restroom, and maybe it got injected so they could include that. And maybe it was right before they were hiring a new director, so they just wanted him to be like a general contractor. Would be my guess. But on any of those projects, any knowledge that the superintendent would lack, he could certainly reach out to the private sector or contractors or anybody else at the city who may be able to help too.
Okay, I totally agree with that. In terms of what their position is. Two other comments are, again, just in general, and on my documents, page 7 of 11, but here it is, page 1. The items that were scratched out, it says the items that say represent the city cemetery or to city and elected officials, et cetera. I think that's fine, but I do think that is Jeremy's position. That would be, representing to elected officials and public agencies, but the public in general. I think the cemetery director or supervisor is the face of the public at the cemetery, and I think that person has to be able to deal with the public and really represent the cemetery to the public. In the event that something were to happen out there, they may go to Jeremy, but they're going to go to the cemetery director for, so they have to be able to deal with media and public officials, or just the general public. I think everything else should go through the proper channels through the city of Missoula.
Yep, that's a good point. I definitely like what you're saying, so I think I would like to rework that last piece so that it fits in line with what you're saying.
Thanks, Katie.
Yep.
Thanks. I think that goes along with your previous comment, Paul, about managing events and volunteers. I think that is something we want this position to be able to do.
Okay. Yeah, you figure, I was thinking like during Memorial Day, there's all the veterans groups that come out and lay up all the flags. And I honestly couldn't tell you where all those flags come from, or, but I know that there are people out there who make that effort. And I think this individual should be a part of that process in their duties. So, other than that, I thought it was very well done, and thanks for doing that.
I do have a question for you guys, though. If you're changing the title to superintendent, then the ordinances would also need to be changed from director, where the cemetery board, has the right to be involved in disciplinary action, hiring action of the director of the cemetery.
Right.
Yep, you are correct. So we would only just change the title of the person, and all the other content will stay
the same. Okay.
And that would be approved. We wanted to give you one kind of big package to approve, so that's why we didn't bring the ordinances now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we gave Susan enough to do at our last board meeting.
I don't mind at all.
Hey, just one other question. In terms of, Sloan mentioned it the other day, in terms of grave layouts, they were suggested that, oh, you could lay out for cremations, you could lay out the cemetery in a different way and increase capacity. And in this document, when I look at that, I didn't see anything that said that they have to be able to kind of make that. I don't know who would lay out those sites if that were something that were going to happen in the future. Should that be accounted for in here? Or is that just part of what they work with city engineering or the surveyor's office or some other agency to make that happen?
I wonder if that would require an ordinance change if we have something that says we have to do it this particular way. Brett, do you know?
I don't know if it requires an ordinance change. I know that we do have a small cremation only section out there as a family section. Those plots are all smaller.
Well, the only thing that I would question including that in a job description is that, let's say that we put that in the job description and then we actually do it at some point in some fashion, then it would no longer be applicable to the job description for the next person because it's already done.
Sure. And I'm fine with that. Just a question. It came up when I was thinking about what Sloan had talked about. So
yeah, I mean, that may be where the restroom building part came from the first time.
I would say what we want in this position is somebody who has the knowledge and ability to manage something like that, whether it's construction of a new restroom or layout of new grave sites.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily the expertise. We would still hire a contractor or a consultant if necessary to do some of those things where we may not have the expertise.
Right. We can work on some general language that would sort of cover all those situations.
I think that's good conversation. I'm glad we were taking the opportunity to look at this together as a group. And thanks, Katie, for your work on this, and Ashley too. Sorry. Paul, I don't want to hold you here longer than you need. I know you have another meeting to get to, but if anyone else has any thoughts or finds anything nuances in that job description that they might want addressed, Katie, can we just email you directly? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, Brett, do you mind if we jump back up to the financial report from you? And then I think you also have some new business in regards to the blasting equipment.
Yep. Can somebody pull up that financial sheets?
Yeah, let me do that real quick. Both of them?
Yeah. If we go to the deposit one first, I guess. So last month we had 2 grave sales, 1 second internment, 2 casket internments, and 1 cremation internment. Sold 3 liners, volleyball store access. Access fee is something we charge if someone purchases a vault that they use instead of buying a liner from us. We've gotten some small amount of flower box revenue coming in now. So. We've done 43 internments so far this year. We actually have another casket internment today. So those numbers are up. The casket internments are up. Bench wells are up so far this year. And cremation and graves are actually down. Anybody have any questions on any of that?
I have one question regarding the rent. What is that for?
That is the person who lives upstairs.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm going to jump off. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
If there's no further questions on this, we can move to the next one. This is our expenditure budget, what we budgeted versus what we've gone through on the percentage of what we have remaining. Would you like me to read through each one individually, or just like to kind of go over it a little bit if you have any questions?
No, I don't think you need to read it line by line. Thank you for offering, though. However, I guess my question, do you have any unexpected expenses coming up or happened in the past month since we last met?
We did have some unexpected expenses after our break-in, replacing parts that they had stolen or damaged. That should all still be, that's not going to put us over budget anywhere. We're working with that. The one big one is under professional services for $350. We have 9.56% left in that, and we will be going over budget on that. That's our uniform cleaning and stuff like that, but we were billed by finance for HR investigation, and that was almost half that budget, so that's where the deficit's coming from.
Sorry, Brett, my audio is a little choppy on my end, I think, but what line item were you accounting for that under?
350.
350, thank you.
Other than that, I think our budget is pretty well in line for where we're sitting.
Katie, help me here. I believe we're at about, what, 60% so far into the budget cycle? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we're at 50, we've only, we have remaining 54%.
Yep.
Still in the 300 accounts, we're sitting really good.
Yeah, and if you look at the bottom line department total, we're at 45.86% expended so far. So we may see some savings, surplus funds, possibly. And one thing I might add too is the city is doing a mid-year budget report where part of that process includes all departments have to do a year-end projection on a line-by-line analysis. And this is actually almost identical to what we have to do, but it will also give us some more clarification on that. And as I told Neil, I don't get too excited with mid-year budget and perceived savings, because when the weather changes, so does all of our operations. And most departments, this is when we start to spend more money. So we should definitely revisit this the further we get into the fiscal year, and then maybe look at, maybe start of June to see if we do have some savings somewhere that we could use to purchase some other items. And that was one thing I'm going to talk with Chris about after this meeting and getting that city mid-year budget going with cemetery. Jeremy, anything to add to that, or?
Sorry, yeah, Brian, we're diving into that as soon as this meeting's over.
Yeah, I'm going to be calling you guys here after this is done also. So, okay. Jeremy, did you want to add anything on that mid-year budget report to council?
Sorry, Brian, I was tuned out typing.
Oh.
You asked me the question again.
I just went over the city's plan to do the mid-year budget report to council and working with cemetery staff to get our presentation up to speed, make sure our numbers are right, and then doing year-end budget projections.
Yeah, it's going to be just a check-in, project to the end of the year, make sure that we're on target. It is an opportunity to start talking a little bit about next year's budget, but I don't expect to make any new requests at that time. So,
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see the mid-cycle budget. Does the city ever, when you do those mid-cycle budgets, do they ever take money back out of the budget?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Not usually.
I've worked for organizations that did that. I just wasn't sure.
The city does make adjustments at the end of the budget cycle,
Okay,
usually afterwards, Neil.
sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, we're doing a mid-year review, but we're really at our third quarter. So
Yeah.
this is really to make sure that we don't need to make any adjustments before the end of the fiscal year. And, largely with some of our other departments, there was a lot of disruption with COVID and a lot of unexpected expenses that we're just checking in on, making sure that we're still in good shape.
Sure.
I wouldn't expect anything with cemetery that needs to change. I think we're on target, and we can look at what the next budget looks like based on what we're doing here with staffing and with looking at the strategic plan to decide what we want to try to tackle in the next year.
Yeah, that was going to be a follow-up question for me. I know that the subcommittee met yesterday to talk about the strategic plan, and we've been kind of waiting on that as far as putting in requests for capital expenses for next year. I'm just wondering have we started that process of looking at what expenses we're going to be requesting for next year?
I think we should do a work session with the board on that, and we can, if you like, we can bring some recommendations forward in terms of what we would like to tackle first coming out of that plan, and start a conversation around what that would look like in terms of a budget request.
I think that sounds great. If we'd love to be involved in that and provide some hopefully beneficial feedback, and yeah, that would be great. Thanks, Jeremy.
We'll work on that for the next meeting then.
Speaking of one other budget item that's not specifically mentioned on the agenda, and I don't know if Neil, maybe you were aware of this, but I was able to change the practice with our vehicle maintenance and charging cemetery for labor on vehicle repairs or equipment repairs. That will no longer be done. So it's, what is it, 230? I think there's a line in there for vehicle maintenance of $6,000 that will now probably go a lot further, since we'll only be charged for parts. So that was kind of a nice little bonus for us.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And Brian, thank you for working towards that end. That's really awesome. My question would be, if for budgeting for next year, how do we account for that $6,000? If it's not needed, do we give that back up to the general fund?
We can look at that, Neil. I'm sure it will still be needed. But to what extent, I don't know. Or maybe the money that if they went over in prior years because of labor, then that's something we wouldn't have to cover, and we could possibly use it for something else.
Sure.
But $6,000 for parts when you have an old sweeper and an old Vector is extremely minimal and not near enough.
Yeah, totally. And that's kind of my concern, is we have some, pretty expensive rolling stock, and it needs maintenance and parts. And I didn't want anyone to go like, oh, well, you don't need that money, any more than if you're not being charged for it. So I just wanted to make sure that we get account for that appropriately.
Yep. Vectors and sweeper are high wear and expensive equipment to own and maintain, and cemetery gets it usually second or third hand. So it's pretty much wore out for other departments, and when they're at that stage of their useful life, maintenance costs go up. I mean, one part for an old Vector can eat up $6,000 real easy.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Again, thanks for working that out, though, as far as the labor costs.
Yeah.
Oh, Kim, I think you and I are the only ones left on the phone from the board. Do you have any other thoughts or questions in regards to the budget at this point?
No, I think it looks great. I wish my budget looked like that.
Oh, right. Well, let's keep moving then. Where are we? Oh yeah, Brett, did you want to talk about the blasting cabinet?
Yeah, I've been researching those over the last month or two, and I think it would be something that would be very beneficial to us moving forward for our pinch wall blasting and stuff. Our current setup is fairly archaic and dirty and messy, and it'd be a lot safer for the operator to use. I found one through Fastenal that's honestly too big, I think, for what we need for, and that was like $4,500. And I found another, an all-source brand for, you can buy it on several different, it's all off the internet. They're sold through different distributors. And that's around $3,000. And I think that one would be a good setup for us. And it's a pressure pot type system too. So their blasting time would be faster. It's got an enclosed filtration system too, so there's no dust particles flying around and whatnot.
And one thing too, I'd like to add too is according to the city purchasing policy, for purchases from $1,000 to $5,000, all you have to do is get a reputable city vendor. But I want to commend Brett for still going out and getting quotes, looking at what he should do. And he has the authority. He could buy the $4,500 one based on our purchasing policy, but him and I discussed it and we both agreed that getting quotes would be certainly a better alternative. And then we both thought that at least discussing it with the board would be a good thing also. So I appreciate Brett's efforts on all that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. I think that's good recognition, especially in our, we want to show financial responsibility and
of course, assuming and we have the budget to afford it. That was the other thing we obviously looked at.
Oh, minor detail.
Yeah.
So what do you need from the board at this point to move forward? I don't know that that's in our purview to account out of that budget. So we're more than happy to support you. Kim, do you have any thoughts?
No, sorry, I had it on mute. No, I definitely, if that's what's needed, what do we need to do?
Not anything. It was more of a informational thing. But oftentimes if you put a single line item expenditure that's substantial, it even happens with council that they can ask you, well, what was that for? So we're trying to be a little preemptive on that in case we had questions. So we made sure our ducks were in a row. We got the machine that would work best for Brett and at the best price. So if the next month you see a big hit for $3,000 and wonder what's that for, now you already know.
Okay.
We'll still ask. What was that?
Yeah, no, exactly.
That's fantastic. Thank you. By all means.
That price is for just the unit itself with the filtration system together. There will be a few other small costs, different blasting media to use than we currently use. Stuff like that I'm anticipating won't cost any more than $500.
And a lot of those things you're already buying anyway for the old system you have, right, Brett?
Yeah, we're using a different media right now in the system that we have.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think that sounds great. It would be interesting to see if we can record a return on the investment over time on that. That would be interesting to look at, but that's just a side note. Utility vehicle, I saw that was on the list as well.
Yeah, that's per the replacement schedule, and it's for a utility cart. The current one that will be replaced is a 2004 Kubota with just under 3,800 hours on it. And I'm in the process of getting quotes for those. I have 2 quotes so far. I'm still waiting for the third. And the 2 quotes that have come in so far are right around $18,000, and we have $25,000 budgeted for it.
Hey, Katie, do you want to bring up that question that you and I talked about where Scott Caldwell brought was a 1-ton pickup to Public Works Committee and said that CARES funding will pay for it? And apparently there could be confusion that it's not coming out of cemetery, but from the COVID relief fund. And I was wondering if maybe some of the board members might have some background as why the capital reserve budget apparently has been called the CARES fund for the cemetery. Did any of the board members have any feedback on that? Because if you look in the ordinance, there's a capital reserve fund that can be used to purchase equipment. And in some of the language, it does say that it can go for the care of and maintenance of the cemetery. So I was just wondering if that was just a nickname for that. But any idea?
Kim, I'd have to lean on you for your expertise since you've been on the board longer than I have.
Yeah, that was a big issue a while back, and you're making me dig into the memory banks.
Sorry, Kim.
No, it's I don't know that I would say this right. The way that it was named previously meant that the funds could only be used for certain things when we wanted it to be used for a broader
Right.
usage. And so we got the name, we changed the name.
Oh,
on
okay.
it.
All right, good enough. That's kind of what Katie and I were wondering, but we wanted to make sure there was no confusion that we weren't turning this in as a COVID relief person.
Yeah.
So, all right, thanks, Kim.
I don't know, getting a new Kubota tractor would be kind of make me happy.
It might be hard to justify with the state, you know, but,
Fair enough. So the utility vehicle, you said you're still waiting on a couple quotes?
I'm still waiting on one more quote. We need
Oh,
3
one more.
quotes.
So, and you don't need us to vote on that expense, do you?
I'm not sure, I guess. I believe it comes out of the capital reserve fund.
Yeah, we shouldn't have to vote on that.
Okay.
It's more informational.
We appreciate you letting us know about it, and we're happy that the cemetery can afford new equipment once in a great while.
well, and I'll offer the same compliment to Brett on this as I did for the sandblaster, is that he's putting forth the effort to find the best price and the most viable piece of equipment that he can use, and it takes time. So
Indeed. Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. Let's see. We don't have much time left on today's meeting. Under continuing business, I was wondering if, unfortunately, I was not able to attend all of the presentation yesterday at the, excuse me, at the council's subcommittee meeting to discuss the Sloan plan. I know Jeremy was there. Jeremy, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that. You sent out the recording. I apologize. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but I intend to. Was there anything that came out of that we should talk about today?
I just thought our consultant did a great job, and council was very engaged in the discussion. They asked a lot of good questions. I think we really set the tone for what this strategic plan will do and how the cemetery needs to benefit from it, so that, you know, as we look at surplusing that land, that a portion of those proceeds have to come back and take care of some of the cemetery needs, and council seemed really on board with that. I think the discussion was really solid around that idea that there are some needs at the cemetery that we don't have funding for right now.
Well, Jeremy, seriously, thank you for attending. Thank you for representing us. From what I did see, what I did attend, we're in good hands with the city administration between you and Brian. Really, thank you very much for your work on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. I'm really excited about where we're at. I think we're in a really good position now to do some things, and the next couple of years are going to be interesting at the cemetery.
Definitely exciting times. Do we have any other agenda items? Anything else anyone wants to bring up at this point?
I would like to mention, apparently Ashley was in a meeting and someone spoke to her about setting up a bike tour out here. And they had reached out to us yesterday, I believe it was, and we chatted with them a little bit, and they want to do it in May. I guess that's National Biking Month, and kind of do like a historical tour and stuff. So we're working with them. Chris and I are working together, setting up a tour, I guess, so to speak, and it's going to be a self-guided tour. So we won't, we'll put up signs and stuff for them if they want us to. And we'll have a little informational packet set up, for each historical figure, that they want to visit and stuff like that. So it's kind of exciting moving forward with that. And I'm planning on reaching out to other bird watching groups or running, walking type groups or whatnot, and seeing if they're interested in setting up some type of get together out here.
Those are great ideas.
Yeah.
Anything we can do to involve the general community, I think is fantastic. It just generates interest, it generates acknowledgement, and shows it's part of what the cemetery is for here is a public service space. So I think that's just fantastic. I'm really excited for that. Thank you for letting us know about it.
And if you guys need any help in doing any setups or anything like that, we've helped as a board before. So I hope that you would at least consider that.
Oh, absolutely. The more help, the better.
Hey, Brett, and maybe the board too, what would you guys think of possibly also using it as sort of a promotional activity, and maybe give some flyouts with your price sheets? And I kind of wish that they had a guide there that could go out and talk about some of the history of the families and the names, and really try to promote the cemetery as a viable option. I don't know.
That'd be neat.
Yeah.
So that was something that Larry really hit home yesterday, was that we're in a declining business model just in terms of cemeteries. That's just happening everywhere. It's not unique to us. He said what's important for us in the long term is for the cemetery to be a place that people recognize as a special place, and they choose to inter their own ashes or their families, loved ones, whatever, that they choose the cemetery because it means something to them. And I think when you invite people out there for things like a bike tour or some kind of a historic tour, whatever it is, you're connecting that. And I think that's exactly what we need to do. And that's going to help us be sustainable in the future. And people will choose to buy plots there and buy monuments and things like that. So,
yeah. That's fantastic. Thank you again.
Hey, Brett, is that happening on a weekend at all, or?
Yeah, I believe so. That's why it's going to be a self-guided tour. Otherwise, we're going.
Okay. I would volunteer if I could do it. It's not during vacation or anything. I would be happy to go out and walk around, and I could probably learn a lot of things also.
I don't have a lot of specifics from her yet as far as if it's going to be from like say 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. People can kind of come out and go, or it's all going to be one start time or whatever, but we have to follow all the COVID regulations as well. Sure. So we just got the ball rolling on it yesterday, and I just thought I'd mention it to kind of give you a heads up on what we're planning.
Maybe I could borrow the new utility vehicle so I don't ride around. Give me a little megaphone, and Kim, we could ride on that one together.
There we go.
I'll let you ride my new e-bike, Brian.
I would probably wreck it or fall off.
Neil, you're on mute.
Or his mic quit working.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. But Kim, I guess you've been elected interim director.
Well, is there anything else on the agenda that we haven't touched on?
I think so.
So I
Okay.
guess we could just adjourn this meeting. And Neil put his thumb up, I think. Yeah. So thank you guys for everything that you did. I think this was a really good, productive meeting, and we're going in the right direction.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you, Kim.
Okay, well, everyone have a good rest of the week and a good weekend.
All right,
You
thank
too.
You're good.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.